Almost ready. First round of fireballs on me.
You called?
Who are you?
I'm the Fireball Dragon, and I'm here to grant you 3 wishes.
Really?
Hell no! I'm here to torch your tonsils and make tonight a night to remember.
What is even going on right now?
You're in a Spotify commercial.
Wait, I'm in a commercial?
Ignite the night with Fireball.
What is going on here?
Please drink responsibly. Whiskey with natural cinnamon flavor, 33% alcohol by volume, produced by Cesar Co. Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, what's happening? We about to bring that action. Gotta hold it down for my Seattle Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. We going beneath the waves. Get it hype, step onto the ice. Ready for some action. Release the Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Beneath the Waves podcast, your weekly source of all things Seattle hockey and beyond. I am Matt.
I'm Heather.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Derek.
And this is episode 28, and we are continuing with our look back on the 2024-25 season. On this episode, we're going to be conducting a bit of a performance review for the Seattle Kraken roster based on how well we feel they did in the 2024-25 season. Today, we're going to be focusing strictly on the forwards. I'm going to be bringing up a list of players to you and some quick stats as well from how they did this season. And I just want to know from all of you how you're all feeling and now that this season has come to a close. We can base it on vibes, we can base it on analytics, you can base it on whatever you want, whatever floats your boat. We just want to let the people know how we feel about these players. Just for clarity on this list, I'm going to present these in alphabetical order, not in terms of any sort of ranking. Also, for players who join this team mid-season, the numbers I'm going to give will only reflect their time as a Seattle Kraken player. So to start, though, I just want to do a quick hit on the players that we consider our quote-unquote part-timers. Is there anything that jumps out to you about the following players? We have the likes of John Hayden, Jacob Melanson, Ben Meyers, Mitchell Stevens, or Ryan Winterton. I think what makes the most sense here is if we check in with our foremost Coachella Valley Firebirds analysts, Heather and Alex. What do you guys think about these guys?
I definitely want to comment on some of these Firebirds players that came up this season because I think it was really telling that we had some really great talent come up. And I think that, I keep saying that the future's bright and I still really feel that way. But, one that really stands out to me, actually, there's quite a few here, but, Ryan Winterton, at the start of the season when he was at training camp and rookie camp and all of that, I really felt like he was getting really close to being ready. And one of the things that I liked about him most is that he really wanted it. He was so excited to be there and wanted to play his absolute best. So whenever he would come up, it was exciting for me just because I am really, really rooting for him. I think he still needed some time to work through, just those first time playing in the NHL jitters and, fitting into systems. And I'm going to be really curious to see how he does this off season and then coming into next season, because I think maybe the entire team had an issue with getting the systems in place. So I'm not sure that I can even make a full, critique or judgment on Ryan Winterton just because I think everyone really, really struggled there. However, I do think there's huge potential there, and I think he's one we'll see up for sure. Whether it's this year or next year, or this season or next season, I guess I should say. But he's one that I'm super excited about just going forward, and I think he's just going to continue to grow. I think Jacob Melanson, someone we really have to look at because he came up and really had this great, he's kind of a brawler, and I like that about him so much. So I think, he's someone that we'll see coming up. He played exactly the role he needed to play when he was up with the Kraken, and I think that's very exciting and very just gives some hope for the future as well. So that's, to me, someone that we definitely will be keeping an eye on. And I know Alex and I talked a lot about that as we were covering the Firebirds too, just that he was someone who we're really excited to see. John Hayden is always a favorite of mine. I just think he's really fun to watch. And I think, he is someone who can definitely fill a role of being that defender that's going to, come in and, he's going to get in the fights that we need him to get into. So I really like John Hayden a lot, and I'm always happy to see him up. Ben Meyers, same thing, he's super solid. And I think, it's always good to see him as well come up. Mitchell Stevens, just someone who's that, he's solid because he has played quite a few NHL games already. So when we needed him, he was there and he did a great job. So, I think these players did exactly what they needed to do. And honestly, I'm fine for the ones that came up and maybe they didn't make a huge impact as far as like scoring, assists or any of that would be concerned, but came up and filled a role they needed to fill and got their feet wet a little bit in the NHL. And we're just going to see them continue to grow. So I'm excited, and I honestly just wish we saw more of them if I'm really being truthful there.
In terms of players like John Hayden, Jacob Melanson, Ben Meyers, Mitchell Stevens, and Ryan Winterton, unfortunately, I don't really have much to say on them. Most of those players are fourth-line players at best. I still believe that Ryan Winterton has the possibility of cracking like a third-line type player, but like it remains to be seen. So overall, these players are part-timers, so to speak, as you mentioned it previously. They are going to be the guys that are going to be battling for that fourth line role, that spot that's available, if it's available, or even possibly the spot where they're being paid NHL dollars, but they're sitting in the press box. Ultimately, that's what I see with these guys. Jacob Melanson could be one of those guys too, though. He did prove when he did come up this in his call-up, only played a game, but he was impressive nonetheless. But he's a bruiser, he's a grinder, and that's exactly what you need. But so like fourth line guy, fourth line role. So that's what I see with those guys.
Matt, to start here with all these guys, I don't have a ton to say on this group, other than them all being Heather's men, Heather's guys, respectively. Alex and Heather, with their desert dialogues, they know a lot more about these chaps. None of them are super remarkable to me. John Hayden, other than being a guy that'll scrap at any time, not super remarkable. But so I'll keep this really short. I don't want to, clog any airtime, but I don't have a ton to say about these guys.
So of this list, I'd say I'm kind of in the same boat as Derek was. Really, John Hayden's the only guy that jumps out to me. Worth really remarking on. He was a solid fourth liner in kind of the rotation that he brought up in here and there. We often would call him the bodyguard or the enforcer, because it seemed whenever things were going down, John Hayden would be the one to roll up his sleeves and get in there and start throwing some knuckles and getting in people's faces. So I'm a fan of John Hayden. It'd be cool to see him, keep getting more opportunities next year. I think he did a serviceable, let's say, job as a fourth line Seattle Kraken player. The other guys like Ben Meyers, Mitchell Stevens, they were just kind of fillers. They were so. Jacob Melanson, if I remember correctly, he only had one game and he showed some fire in there, so hopefully he gets some more shots next year. And Ryan Winterton, I know we had a lot of hope for him off the start and throughout the season, but he had quite a few games and didn't really seem to make any impression, at least to me in my casual viewer eyes, to really have any sort of impact on the team. But that does it for the part-timers. Let's get into the real deal members of the Seattle Kraken roster. And again, just a reminder, these are only in alphabetical order, so we are starting off with the newly named this season alternate captain for the team, the former Calder Trophy winner, Matty Beniers, who this season played in all 82 games, perfect attendance for him. He had 20 goals, 23 assists, and 43 points all told, altogether. Derek, I think you're probably the most passionate Matty Beniers fan, so why don't you let us know how you felt about Mr. Beniers?
I can tell that you didn't format this list, Matt, by ranking them, because Beniers is at the top. So we'll go in alphabetical order, starting with Beniers. Now, obviously, let's just cut to the chase. Beniers is mid, okay? But I'll also say he's S tier, and he will be around because he has a long-ass contract now that was signed. Super long, should have been bridged, in my opinion. because we would have been able to, observe these years at a much lower rate and then maybe lock him into something that makes more sense. Sasquatch NHL has done extensive talks, especially targeted directly at me, talking about how Beniers, if he does develop into even, a slightly above average player, that rate of 7 or 7.5 or whatever it is going to look a lot better as the league goes on and as the salary cap increases. So I'm definitely all ears to that. And another big thing, and Mike has said this too from Sasquatch, he definitely still has a ton of time to develop into something great. And what's shocking is, he's November of 2002, so he's still 22 somehow. Like, he's 22 years old. I feel like he's 25. So we really haven't seen that sort of greatness since the playoff season, 2022-2023. And really just the way everything looks right now, it seems like the league quickly caught up to him. And he hasn't really been able to get past that. Hopefully he takes a big step this summer. I'm begging you, Matty, please take a big step this summer. You need to be working with Coach Campbell every single day on your skating, improve your grit and your fight and your ability to, drive the net.
Matty Beniers. I'm disappointed in Matty Beniers. And I know a lot of people are going to give me shit for that, but let's be serious here. 82 games, he played the whole season, he got 43 points. He is your second highest paid player on the team after Vince Dunn. And he's not playing like that. You're paying Matty Beniers to be your top center. And he really hasn't made any jumps since his rookie season. For argument's sake, I would say he's regressed. And so it's complicated. It's extremely frustrating to watch him because you could see how good he is. He just can't figure it out. So 43 points in 82 games. I am in a meh factor. Hopefully he figures it out this offseason. I know he's doing great overseas with Team USA right now. So got that to look forward to. But yeah, I really hope Matty can figure it out next season, because my biggest take on it is that if Matty keeps playing like this, especially with a new coach coming in, you could see Chandler Stephenson or even Shane Wright take that number 1 center role from him. And I don't think a lot of people would be shocked by it.
Matty Beniers. Well, he played this season. I'm just kidding. He sort of had a solidly consistent season, I guess. Not the breakout season that I was hoping for him. Not the breakout season I think anyone was hoping to see from him. But, he did have some great games, and I think there was a lot of pressure on him. And I think that was one of the reasons maybe he didn't perform as well as maybe we were hoping that he would perform, especially with his big contract. But, to me, he's still one of our great players that I think will continue to improve. And I'm just hoping that he can take this offseason and just, make the changes he needs to change and then come in next season really ready to rock and roll, because we need him, and we need him to be a high scorer.
When it comes to Matty Beniers, I think he had a real chip on his shoulder this year. He had a lot to prove, and we were really, as a fan base, and us particularly here, expecting a lot out of him. He had that awesome Calder Trophy winning season back when we had that season with the playoff run. He had a bit of a sophomore slump last year, so we were really hoping that he had sort of a bounce back to that rookie season Matty that we saw before. And I think we saw flashes of this out of him, but it wasn't really as consistent as at least I would have hoped. I feel a lot of the success from Matty Beniers comes not from him playing well, but from how well those he's put with raise him up, elevate him. And once the time in the season hit where he was playing with Jaden Schwartz and Kaapo Kakko, I think they finally found that unit that really gelled together, meshed well together, and performed well. So hopefully they're able to kind of keep that rhythm, that synergy going into the next season, or we find some sort of new combo that works really well with him to make him beyond the 43 points, beyond the 20 goals that he scored this season, to hopefully appear on the score sheet some more. I have a feeling that this next one is going to be met with probably the most negativity of anyone on the list. Next up, we have Andre Burakovsky, who this season played in 79 games. He had 10 goals and 27 assists for 37 points altogether. Oh, where do we even start with him? The guy's making a ton of money, and I think we're all in the same frame of mind that he is not having the output that the amount of the check that he's getting written every season is like lining up. I know there was a lot of injury problems, things like that previously. We often remarked about how he is made of glass, and I think that towards the end of the season, we started seeing what Andre Burakovsky is maybe capable of. He started scoring a little more. He started giving more assists. Before the season, we did a little time capsule where we each made bold predictions, and my bold prediction was that he would play in all 80. He would play in 80 of the 82 games this season. He played 79. 2 of the games he was out as a healthy scratch by Coach Dan, and one of them was because of illness. So he avoided his brittle bones being shattered, and he showed up. He showed up to work. So I'm going to say I was pretty dang close in that prediction. So hopefully he's able to keep riding the momentum that he had towards the end of the season here and have a really productive 2025-26 season.
Andre Burakovsky, 79 games played. He played almost a full season. So that's a bonus considering he's literally made of paper mache. 37 points, he's not the player that we expected he was going to be. That injury in his first year at the Kraken completely derailed his entire career, in my opinion. And he's the ghost of his former self. I honestly was hoping that we would ship him out at the deadline. Knew that was probably unlikely. I'm hoping we ship him out this offseason. If not, he's definitely gone by the deadline next year. To me, just, great player, rotten luck with injury, and you have a contract that just, he's not worth that contract. And so he's not really a tradable asset. So you're going to probably look at either attaching something to get rid of him, or you're just going to run out that contract, unfortunately. But I could see him as like a third or a fourth line player. Honest to God. You bring in, the right coach, I don't think you see him get more than 10 minutes a night.
Berkey. I have a really hard time with Berkey. I want to like him so much, but I have a problem with his lack of scoring this season. 27 assists is fantastic, but he was coming into this team to be a goal scorer and a huge difference maker, and I just failed to see it over and over again, and I just don't know what to do with that. So I think if you've listened to our podcast, you know how I feel about him. Not as a human being, he's great. I love a Berkey smirk, but as far as production, we need more from Berkey.
Andre Burakovsky, mostly awful this year. I think everyone would agree on that, but certain line combinations allowed him to thrive with assists, particularly when he was paired up with Shane. I know everyone, especially Heather, was upset with that. But I could also see Burakovsky taking a big step up next year. It's pretty hard. It would be pretty hard to take a step down. I feel like he's half a point per game at best. But he did have a 8.7 shooting percentage this year, which is pretty low. It's 10th among the 12 forwards that qualify ice time wise that we're actually talking about today. And this could suggest that he's fallen off, right? Because his shooting percentage is low, or it could suggest that he got kind of unlucky this year. Maybe the goals will start pouring in for him next season. I sure hope so, with that $5.5 million price tag sitting with him until 2027 and 2028.
This next player, you should be pretty familiar with our thoughts on him if you listened to last week's episode where we talked about our top 5 stories of the season. We are, of course, now talking about the captain of the Seattle Kraken, Jordan Eberle, who had just the most roller coaster of a season, only ended up playing in 42 games, and in those games he had 9 goals and 17 assists. Who wants to take the captain first?
I honestly don't think I can criticize Jordan Eberle even if I wanted to. Broke his pelvis, came back, played really well, barely had any easing in time, and he had started the season so well. So I have no criticism of him, to be honest, like just really bad circumstances and situation. But the fact that he came back to play, I still can't get over that. And you're probably tired of hearing me say that, but seriously, how amazing is Jordan Eberle? So I'm excited to have him back next season and for everything to go well for him and to see our captain again.
The captain, the rock of this team to start the year, I'll say, and that injury he got that we talked about last episode, very sad. And there really isn't enough to talk about with him this year, just because he missed so much. We really, would love to talk about the 82 game season he played this year, but it just wasn't the case. He missed 40 games. But in the first 16 games of this season, he had 11 points, which was just so hot. He had such a hot streak to start. And then he got injured, was gone a few months, came back, got 15 points on the remaining 25 games. So it's still not horrible, especially after going through such a horrible injury. With that injury, and father time, I just hope he doesn't succumb to age next year. He's 35, so at that point, you might as well be 60. So hopefully, he's able to outlast.
Jordan Eberle is an absolute certified stud. He has an injury that is not even heard of in the NHL and comes back at the end of the season. I know that every single one of us didn't expect him to come back. And the fact that he did come back was remarkable. He started out the season incredibly strong. So the injury completely derailed him in every single way. And it also derailed the Kraken as a whole. They finally announced a captain. We've been talking about who the heck the captain's going to be year after year, to the point where Heather was literally going to throw something at her computer, and we kept talking about it in previous podcasts episodes. But he finally gets named captain, and he led. He's a quiet leader, but I can guess he's probably a loud leader in the dressing room. But 9 goals, 17 assists, and 26 points in a 42 game season, especially when he comes off an injury like that. I have no complaints. He's going to come out stronger next year, and I think he's going to absolutely light the lamp. For all you haters saying he's too old, you know what? You need the old guys, and he's the old breed. Let him cook. You got to let him cook.
So anyone that's been around for a while knows that Jordan Eberle is my guy. When I decided that I was all in on this team when it first got announced, it was just solidified when it was revealed that he was one of the picks in the expansion draft. He is from my hometown, so I feel like I have that kind of instant close to home connection there. So seeing him play well on this team is something that I always want. So this year was kind of particularly rough to see go down. When he started off really hot, that was awesome to see. Kind of seeing the reactions that we got to him being the captain was really well deserved. And then he had that injury, and just watching him claw his way back and get back to playing full games, playing I think it was 14 minutes in his very first game back, was just astounding to see. So very impressed with him there. Hopefully he gets some rest or some further rehab and conditioning over the summer, and we can get a nice, healthy, full 82 games out of Ebbs next season. Okay, so this next guy, he's one of the ones who came in midway through the season. We have Mikey Eyssimont, who came over at the trade deadline as a result of the trade with Yanni Gourde and Oliver Bjorkstrand. When he made his way over, he ended up playing in 20 games for the Kraken. He had 4 goals and 2 assists for 6 total points. How are we feeling about Mikey E's time on the squad?
I feel like he had 15 goals, but honestly, his points per game wasn't far off of Beniers, in a loving way to say that. But I don't think this guy's going to be a staple here by any means. He's 28 with the track record of being a career reserve. We might need to sign him as a cheap filler and potentially sub prospects in. I don't really know. But yeah, I don't have a lot to say about Eyssimont. But it did feel like he got more than, 4 goals and 2 assists. I guess each one of his goals were just really hype.
I love this guy. Sign him up, extend him. You need him on the fourth line. He is full of piss and vinegar. He'll hit you. He'll screw around with other players to make sure that, they know that the players that he's playing with are protected. And he managed to get a couple goals in. He's not a flashy player. He gets into the corner. He is feisty. He's exactly what you need. And, if the Kraken sign him for like 1.15 million or 1.125 or whatever, you're most likely going to see like 1.25. I'm not going to complain. He's the type of player that you need. He is not only a character player, but he is all about presence, and that's what you need. This team needs a presence player. They have Jamie Lesiak, but he is, he hits like he's a daffodil, during a rainstorm. He's pretty soft. So yeah, Mikey Eyssimont, I like the guy, certified stud.
Mikey Eyssimont, when we talked about the trade deadline, I am really happy with his production. I mean, to come into a team and that far into the season and not know really a lot of the guys and to be able to fit in that well, I want them to extend him, and I would love to see him around for a long time. So really just a great part of the season that he had with us.
So aside from someone who we're going to be talking about right away here, I think Mikey E is one of my biggest surprises of the season. Not only a surprise in just him being on the team altogether, because we can't really predict trades like that, but the way that he came in as kind of just a no-name person that none of us were really sure of, but then he kind of did an effective job of filling in that Brandon Tanev and Yanni Gourde chaos gremlin pot stirrer role in all the games. It seemed like whenever a scuffle started up, he would get in there and kind of poke the bear. And he had some pretty entertaining goals too. So he's one that I wouldn't be too upset if he got an offer to keep going with the Kraken next season. We could probably get him for pretty cheap to hold it down on the fourth line there. And yeah, I've been pretty impressed with him. So next up probably has to be the most exciting acquisition that we had, because again, it's one that we had out of nowhere who joined us mid-season. We have Kaapo Kakko. He came over in December of this season as a result of a trade that sent Will Borgen over to the New York Rangers, and he seems to do pretty well at the Kraken in his campaign here. He played in 49 games, he had 10 goals and 20 assists. Who wants to take Kaapo Kakko first?
Kaapo Kakko had a banner of a season with us. Now, I know he didn't play, all 82 games with us, but when he came in, he definitely showed that he was ready to play. And somebody else that I want them to extend immediately, because I loved his play. I loved his tenacity. I loved watching him on the ice. I think he fit in so well, and I think that the other players really liked him, and I'm so excited to see him continue to be a Kraken. So let's make sure we extend him, please. Please don't waste any time. We need Kaapo Kakko to stick around for sure.
Okay, Kaapo Kakko, S tier, no words needed here. Absolute freak once he came to Seattle, and I can't wait to see what a full Seattle season looks like for him. This team needs to do whatever he needs in order to keep him. I love him with Beniers and maybe Tolvanen. And for those curious, Kakko took a 8.9% shooting percentage with New York, the Rangers, through 30 games where he had 14 points, and traded it in for a 13.95% shooting percentage with 10 goals and 30 points through 49 games in Seattle. Also, his tremendous size of 6'1" compared to how small the Kraken players are, it's really valued.
I think if he played the entire season with the Kraken, he'd be probably your top, either your first or second top point getter on the team, which is stating something. He had a career year between the Kraken and the Rangers. Hats off to the guy. The fact that we even were able to acquire him in a trade for Will Borgen is astronomically insane, because Kaapo Kakko is top 5 pick in the first round a few years back. So to say that is just shocking, to say the least. No, I think he's going to be great. Extend him. I think he's probably going to get a 3-year deal around 4.5, 6, maybe 7 million. And it's going to be that perfect range that gets him to UFA. And then we kind of go from there. It's kind of a prove it deal, because he never had that opportunity with the Rangers, and he's going to have that opportunity here to really take off as a star. And hopefully we have a star in him. because I think you give him a full season with the Kraken and he can get 60, 65, 70 points. And that's where I'm kind of thinking about that. So I love Kaapo Kakko, love the trade. Hopefully we see a beautiful contract that sees him in Seattle colors for years to come.
So like I said, when I introed him there, really didn't see this one coming at all. Another case where we can't predict a trade that's going to happen, especially when it involves Will Borgen, fan favorite, going over to the Rangers and getting a forward in return. I think his arrival was just really well timed, given that Ebbs was out at the time. We had the vacancy in the forward group. Really, this is such a better fill than having Daniel Sprong come down from Vancouver and play, 10 games, then get sent down to Coachella. So being super casual, I was not familiar with who this Kaapo Kakko guy was. I did some research leading up to it and seeing he was really highly drafted in his draft year, and he was a young guy, so it's not like we're signing some 31-year-old like Derek just absolutely loathes to see. So I just hope that his time with the Kraken is going to be a long time with the Kraken, seeing the things that he did with Matty Beniers to help elevate him, that he did with Jaden Schwartz on that line. He had some time with Jani Nyman as well. So I hope that Jason Botterill opens that checkbook. I got to get used to saying the Botterill checkbook and not the Francis checkbook. He opens it up this summer and writes a nice offer to Kaapo Kakko to keep him here in the Kraken blue.
The NBA 82-game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
Next up, we have a guy who didn't really light the Kraken landscape on fire. Tye Kartye, who played in only 63 games this season, 6 goals, 7 assists for 13 points. He was the victim of a lot of healthy scratches and a little bit of time down in Coachella for a conditioning stint. What are we feeling about Tye Kartye?
Tye Kartye, man, I love Kartye. He's from Kingston, from where I live. So I always have that connection with him in that sense of being like, I love this guy. I want to cheer for him. And, he played 63 games. He had 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points. And I want him to remain on the Kraken. But at the same time, I'm wondering if he's just not being utilized in the right capacity. When he came in with the Kraken during the playoffs 2 seasons ago, he was just incredible. Blew the lights out of the building. Just was impressive to say the least, but he's being utilized in a 4th line role now, and with that, not a lot of opportunity. So I don't think he's going to crack any of the top 3 lines, and that's the issue that I have right now. So I could totally see Kartye possibly not being extended this summer, and being left and told to walk as a free agent. If not, I think he has the possibility of fighting for a 4th line role, especially with a new head coach. You never know what can happen. We've seen in the past, he is a player that has sparks of brilliance, and never know. You bring in the right coach, you give him the right training, and who's to say he's on the 2nd or 3rd line next season? Probably not going to happen, but wishful thinking nonetheless.
I think Kart's had a quiet season. He didn't stand out as much to me as some of the other players, especially if we're talking about forwards in particular. But I think he is still a really solid player for us. And, I didn't really like when he was pulled from the lineups in some of these games, because I do think he's solid for us. So, I think he's got some things to work on, and I think he got in his head a little bit, but, just a quiet season for Kartz. And I'd really like that to change next season, because when he is on, he is really incredible for us. So that's really what I want to see, is just for him to come back next season and really light it up like we know he can.
Atrocious stats. I don't have a ton to say here. I don't want him around unless the price is a bag of all-dressed chips from Old Dutch.
So Tye is an interesting character for me, because I feel he has had some really high highs and he's had some really low lows. I love his story of going undrafted and then heading into the AHL, getting Rookie of the Year, getting a call-up into the Stanley Cup playoffs when Jared McCann went down, and scoring one of my all-time favorite Kraken goals that came as a result of Nathan MacKinnon throwing a hissy fit, getting a goal in his first playoff appearance. Not even his first playoff experience, but his first NHL game altogether. Was awesome to see. So I had lots of hope, lots of hype for him, and it just really hasn't panned out. He, like I said before, missed out on 19 games this season, and a real variety of just spending time up in the press box as a healthy scratch, or he played some games down in Coachella Valley for a conditioning stint, and he did quite well when he was down there. So I think he's just kind of in this weird middle ground where he's really good for the AHL and he's not quite there for the NHL. So we'll have to see what happens with him. He's a free agent this summer, see what the team decides to do with him, or if they let him go. But really hope that if we do keep him around, we get a little more production out of Kartz. All right, this next guy, we can't not be hyped about this guy. It's Jared McCann, Mr. Consistent for the Seattle Kraken. 4th season in a row being on the top of the points for the team. He played in all 82 games this season, 22 goals, 39 assists for 61 points. With him, it's really good to see him just continuing to be consistent and be one of the top producers on this team. He seems like a real quiet leader type and just leads by example. He does his job and he makes it look easy sometimes when he does it. He did have a bit of a slump this year, kind of in the middle. Not a whole lot was happening. We were wondering where he disappeared off to. But as we learned during locker cleanout day, he did have some sort of injury that was nagging him that he had to get a procedure on. But with that being said, I feel that that's kind of more impressive that he had whatever surgery requiring injury this was, and he still stuck it out for all 82 games, because he did say in that interview that he didn't want to give up on this team. And I think there's something admirable about that. So thank you, Jared McCann, for sticking it out, and we hope you keep producing for the 5th season in a row.
For a season where everyone said he wasn't really himself, still posting a clip of 61 points that led the team with 22 goals is pretty solid. He's one of those guys that, he could be posting another 40-goal season next year if things go right, and that would be huge for this team. An additional 18 goals may have gotten us within a game or two of playoff contention.
Now, at the end of the season, it was reported that he stated he was going to go for a surgery to fix something in his wrist. He got 22 goals and 39 assists, and he was dealing with an injury all season, especially with a wrist, and he's a goal scorer. So, and I know all of us talked about the fact that something seemed off with McCann all year. And the confirmation from him stating, I have a bad wrist and it needs to be surgically repaired, squashed everything that we were wondering, because we were like, no, he was injured. He was hurt. And the fact that he was able to put up 61 points with a bad wrist is impressive nonetheless. So I love the guy. Like, the fact that he was able to do something like that while being injured the whole year, you get him fully fit, 80-point season. 80-point season, I'm calling it now. I'm going to be optimistic and positive. Oh, I know, shocker. Positive Kraken Canada. Shocking, right? But no, I do foresee him getting like 80 points next year. I see him going back to like the 35, possibly 40 goal category with that fixed wrist, and I think he's going to blow the roof off the building next year. The CPA is going to be absolutely befuddled. That's the word. Confused, blown away, whatever you want to say, because Father Canner has come to slay.
With Canner, I know we talked a lot about how he was just not himself this season. And then we found out he did have an injury and, needed a small, procedure. And I do think that was really showing on the ice, because I felt like he just wasn't himself. But to still play all 82 games, I mean, that's dedication. That's why he's our rafters guy. I so believe that about him. And I don't have any worries about him and his play, especially knowing that, he still produced well for whatever he was going through. And, I love Jared McCann, so I'm not worried about him. Just a season where he had things stacked against him, but still wanted to show up for the team. And I think that's pretty amazing.
So at the top, when I was explaining what we were doing here today, we talked about the part-timers, those who came up from the AHL and only played a few games with the Kraken. Named a handful of players there. And I have a part-timer here, but I feel he deserves to be part of the main roster portion of this pod. And that's Jani Nyman, who played 12 games with the Kraken, recording 3 goals and 3 assists. Why don't one of you Coachella folks let us know your thoughts first on how Mr. Nyman did?
Jani Nyman, yes. I mean, this player does not need to go back to the AHL, please. My delight around his performance is just something I can't even describe, because he was someone that we talked about a lot in his performance in Coachella. And when he was up with the Kraken, how much they missed him in Coachella, because he was definitely their star player. And I think he fit in at the NHL level so well. And I am smiling. You can probably tell in my voice, because I'm really, really stoked to see him next season. I think he's going to be a Kraken full time. And I am so excited to see him continue to just flourish and develop, because he is a really, really amazing player, but also so fun. And that shot is really something. So good job, Jani Nyman, for your 12 games and all that you did, because you proved that you're ready to be full-time NHL for sure.
Jani Nyman. I was going to say Jani Nyman, but no, it's Jani Nyman. 12 games played, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. Certified stud, absolute sniper. What's not to love about him? Honestly, he's going to make the Kraken next year, and he is going to be a character. He is going to be utilized on the power play, because why not? He's got a shot that even, Alex Ovechkin would go, oh boy. I'm not saying he's going to surpass Alex Ovechkin, but hey, you never know. There's a chance. But no, honest to God, Jani Nyman's going to be a player for the ages when he gets called up. I think he's going to make the team out of training camp next year. So that's going to be one fun player to watch for years to come.
All right, and then Jani Nyman. Jani Nyman. Amazing outing for his debut. A lot of potential for Nyman as a goal scorer for this team, especially on the power play. And his big body makes him very valuable as a forward on this small team. I'm really excited to see what he does for this team next year. I think he'll get a lot of playing time.
So one thing that's more interesting for me this season is I was a little more dialed in to the Coachella happenings than I have been in the past, just kind of the nature of doing the show and hearing the things that Alex and Heather were saying, and following along that week after week, Jani Nyman's name was coming up and being named again and again and again and again. So he was making a splash, making an impact, so much so that he was the all-star selection for the Firebirds, even though he was up with the Kraken at the time, so he wasn't able to actually play in that game. When he got his call-up, I put out a tweet at the time to some sort of effect like, remember when Shane came up from his Coachella Valley time and he played like 8 games and just was an absolute stud? I think Jani Nyman's going to do that. And sure enough, his first game, he scores a power play goal, and I think he had a virtually identical goal. I think he had a virtually identical goal either the next game or the game after that. So he has got a lot of upside potential. I hope that we find a spot for him to stay up on the main roster here and get lots of reps in the big show, because he does the thing down in Coachella Valley. I want him to bring that youth, that energy, and hopefully develop his skills at the NHL level next season. So next we have kind of what I would say, and I'll get into it more later, as a bit of a shocker, a bit of a stunner for this season. Jaden Schwartz, one of the alternate captains for the team, who played in 81 games, almost perfect attendance on the season. He just had one kind of cold or flu day towards the end, if I remember correctly. But in those 81 games, he recorded 26 goals and 23 assists for a total of 49 points, and he was the top scorer on the team in terms of goals. How do we feel about Jaden Schwartz's performance this season?
Jaden Schwartz, 26 goals. Like, this man, it breaks my heart to think that like he's dealt with injuries his entire career, because he's good. In a fully healthy season, he pulls off 26 goals, 23 assists for 49 points, and that's what you need in like a second line player. Like, he definitely is a second, third line player in my opinion, but like, those are quality numbers. Leading goal scorer for the Kraken this season, and gonna be honest, I didn't think he had it in him. I think with seeing him being injured over the last couple of years, it's been like, what are we gonna get out of him? And I don't think any of us really knew what we were gonna get out of him. And this year, it just showed that he could do it. And so, he's coming into the last year of his contract. So part of me wonders, perhaps they flip him, in the summer, or even at the deadline next year, because it really depends as to where the Kraken are. But I love Schwartz. He standout player last year, and hopefully, he can bring it back again for next season.
It's the Schweeberger. There were points in this season where it felt like Schwartz was the entire offense. He really came alive this year, and if we paired this with a hot Eberle, McCann, Kaapo, Beniers, and Nyman, this team could be like insanely lethal. We need more overlap with our forwards' hot streaks next year. Regardless, amazing year from Schwartz, scoring a team-leading 26 goals, the second most Schwartz has ever scored. He scored 28 in 2014 and 15, but since then, this is the most he's scored, so really good year for Schwartz.
Where did this season's Jaden Schwartz come from? That's my big question, because he had an absolutely unbelievable season, especially on this team. He stands out as someone who was just always in the right place at the right time, making the right moves at the right time, scoring when we needed him to, and it was really, really cool. So I want to see that Jaden Schwartz back next season, because I was so impressed by him, and I just think that he has that potential, and if we see that again next season, I'm going to be super excited, or even a shade of it. I'll be really excited about that. So this season, Jaden Schwartz, pretty damn sweet.
For me, Jaden Schwartz is another guy that I paid a little extra attention to this season. It's kind of in the same Jordan Eberle boat, that he is a local guy from around where I grew up, where I live, and kind of had an instant buy-in with him there. And seeing him have an almost perfectly attended season, and the production that he had was awesome. I don't know where this Jaden Schwartz came from, but I hope that he keeps sticking around. He had his hat trick this season, which was very exciting to see. We love when our squids get the hats thrown on the ice, so great job for him there. And I feel like, and maybe it wasn't spoken outright, but kind of the vibe that we talked about here was when Ebbs went down with his injury, Jaden Schwartz kind of, maybe, hopefully, maybe I'm just talking on my butt, had the leadership role on the team and helped kind of guide this team through that tough time. He has that cup winning experience. He's been in the league for a long time. So I think it's weird to maybe say that at, what is he, probably 34 years old, 33 years old, that he had his breakout season, but at least with the Kraken, this seemed like a real breakout season for Schwartzy.
This is your before and after story. Southeastern College can help you prepare for a secure and fulfilling career in the growing healthcare field. We offer a wide range of careers to choose from, so whether you want to be a medical assistant, medical billing and coding specialist, nurse, surgical technologist, or another healthcare career, we've got you covered. Become a vital part of a healthcare team and make a real difference. Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sec.edu to get started.
So I know I said before that Andre Burakovsky was probably going to be the most negative, the most controversial name on this forward selection list, but maybe there's another contender here who was almost immediately talked down on from 2:00 in the afternoon, my time, on July 1st during free agency, when it was announced that Chandler Stephenson had moved over from the Vegas Golden Knights to play with the Kraken. Stevie played in 78 games this season. He had 13 goals, 38 assists, and 51 points. Who wants to take this very controversial pick first?
All right, Stevie. I was one who was not super excited about having him on the team. I just didn't care for his play when he was in Vegas, to be totally honest with you. But he proved me wrong. I'll eat those words because he had a great season with us, and I thought he had some of the absolute best, if not the best, passing on the team this season, and I'm really glad for that. Like, he really was a great player for us, and I think, at least for the next few years, this contract is making sense. It is great. And then we'll see from there. But for this season, I was glad that he was on the team, and I didn't think I'd be saying that.
Chandler Stephenson's 51 points for the Kraken this year. And, played that second line center role, and I'm going to criticize here a bit. I think he should be playing third line, just because I think Shane Wright should be playing second or even first. But Chandler Stephenson came in. He was productive. He did everything he needed to do. I think he shut up a lot of the doubters, but at the same time, he brought on a lot of doubters at the same time. So, kind of confusing to say the least. Because if you look at his metrics, he's god awful. But if you look at his point production, he's not too bad. So, all the stat nerds are gonna say, he's garbage, which he might be in like 3 years' time. But with 51 points this season, I can't complain. I just don't want to see him in a top 2 role. If you're paying him like $6+ million, I'm okay with him on the third line, and that's just my take on that. But no, Chandler Steve, solid year, and he proved me wrong. I will say that.
Okay, and then Chandler Steves, very controversial guy here, very controversial nickname I just used, but very controversial guy here. Objectively, he's horrible at defense, okay? But this team more frequently has scoring problems, and he's good at winning faceoffs. But he did have a down year this season, being at 51.6% on the faceoffs, down from 58.1 in 2022-23 with Vegas. Obviously, that's a really high number, his career high, but you'd like to see something probably around like 53 to 54 next year. Dubbed the assist king by us here, especially Matt at BTW. He got nearly 40 assists in a season where our goal scores weren't too amazing, weren't too hot. McCann did have one more assist than him, though, so we need to see some offensive improvement from Stevie next year to justify his atrocious defense. Just for some quick stats here, he generated 3.07 expected goals for per 60 and 3.92 expected goals against per 60. But I want to say, and I see this all the time, I'm probably going to be harping on this a lot next year, this isn't a dispositive stat. So meaning like you can't just take this stat and run with it and say, oh, I know everything about this player because of 2 numbers. And it can also be a testament to how he has been adjusting with new teammates. So we might see those numbers change next year. But yeah, there's always 5 guys on the ice, 6 plus a goalie. So using these stats, it's not like baseball where it's a 1v1, and these stats are not dispositive. You have to watch the games. Stevie was good. He obviously gave the puck away a lot, and but he also gave the puck to our team a lot to get goals. So, a little trade-off there. He scores for both teams.
So when it comes to Chandler Stephenson, Stevie, Channy Steves, if you prefer, I didn't really have a lot of baggage on him when he came on. We, of course, had the talks about how he was too old. The contract was going to age so poorly because it was 7 years. It's a lot of money. It's an overpay. But looking at kind of some of the things that he did this season, I was happy with what Stevie did. We dubbed him as the assist king of the Seattle Kraken. He had 38 assists, which was only 1 shy of Jared McCann's number this season, and he might have had more, but he missed a couple games with the flu towards the end of the season. But some of those assists were amazing and kind of my favorite memories of the season. He managed to make Daniel Sprong look good in the one goal that Daniel Sprong had. I remember it was a kind of like a no-look backhand pass off to Daniel Sprong on the side. I'm of the belief that we have said before that the contract is going to suck in maybe year 5, year 6, year 7, if we get to that point without, trading him away or anything like that. But, we're not in year 5, year 6, year 7. We're done year 1 going into year 2. And if we have him putting up 51 points, which is the same that he put up in Vegas last year, he had almost identical numbers to last season in both goals and assists. We got to enjoy the time we have with what he does. He has 2 cups. He's going to bring experience with that. Hopefully he can kind of relay that experience to his other more youthful, we'll say, centers in Matty Beniers and Shane Wright, and kind of help them along and help them grow and mature as well. All right, our second last name for this list of forwards, another person who had almost perfect attendance. He had 81 games played this season with 23 goals and 12 assists, was Eeli Tolvanen. I remember at the start of the season, or preseason rather, when we had rookie development camp and Heather was there at Kraken Community Iceplex. She was in the room when Ron came out and announced that he signed a 2-year extension with Eeli Tolvanen. So it was nice to see him have a good season this year. How are we feeling about Eeli Tolvanen?
Okay, moving on to Eeli Tolvanen. He's a good little Swiss Army knife, or maybe a Finnish Army knife, you could say. He goes out there and he lays hits. The team leading 237, second being Kartye with 175. He blocks shots, second among forwards to Matty Beniers, which is a shocking first forward now that Tanev's gone, I guess. And he lights the crap out of the lamp with 23 goals this year. Out of a role player type guy on your team, this is just perfect. Tolvi is the quintessential player you want on your team. If every player was Tolvi, we would win every game. His last year on contract is this upcoming season. If he plays even remotely close to the same way he played this year, we better extend him. He's a guy that you want for so many different reasons. Even if he isn't scoring goals, you want him, but he also just snipes the crap out of goalies. Like not enough good stuff to say about Tolvanen. I don't know how you could hate this guy. He's probably one of my favorite players.
And the goalie shits his pants. Eeli Tolvanen. What a guy. I honestly thought we were going to trade him at the deadline. I always liked Tolvanen, but at the same time, I didn't think that he had it in him this season. 23 goals, 12 assists, 35 points. Solid waiver pickup. I'm still going to say that one of the best, in my opinion. And, he is that solid third-line player. He can score. He can contribute. He's a hard hitter. Play him on that third line. I think he's going to produce. And I think that you're going to start seeing more of that productivity next season, even more. So I'm happy with Tolvanen and interested to see what happens moving forward.
How can you not be excited about Eeli Tolvanen this season? Like, he had a great season with us. Like, I another one that I really can't complain about. And I know maybe I'm too easy on the players because I haven't said too many things that are super negative, but I think Eeli Tolvanen also had a pretty good season, and there were, games when he just really showed up for us. So, he's just a great player for us and solid and consistent. And I think that's just going to continue going forward too.
For me, I think that Eeli Tolvanen's performance this season was quite impressive. He set a career high for his amount of goals. There was a lot of the season where it was him and Jaden Schwartz kind of jockeying back and forth for who was going to be the top goal scorer, and he held pretty firm at the top of that list. He was second in goal scoring this season, beating out Jared McCann, who's been the goal scorer king for the last couple seasons with the Seattle Kraken. So I'm excited to see him hopefully continue this momentum. I know I've said that for a few guys, but hopefully continue to carry this momentum, ride this wave into next season, have really strong performance, so that when this contract is up, we're maybe able to extend him again and just keep taking advantage of the greatest waiver wire pickup of all time. All right, and this is the last one. I know off the top I said that this is strictly alphabetical, but I feel like maybe fate said it this way, that we save the best for last. And we have Shane Wright, who played in 79 games, 19 goals, 25 assists, 44 points. I know we're all kind of lukewarm, so. Yeah, he's all right kind of thing. So maybe we'll go to like Heather. She's probably the most lukewarm. Heather, what do you think about Shane Wright?
Do you really want me to talk about Shane Wright? Because have I not done it enough? But really, I think Shane did exactly what he needed to and could do under the circumstances that he was given, because he was playing with very limited ice time and 19 goals, 25 assists. I just think that, he can really do so much more with more minutes. And I'm going to continue banging that drum all off season and all into next season, because this is someone who is not benefiting from being, on the fourth line or the third line. He's someone that needs those upper, he needs to be first line, second line. He needs those minutes, and that's the way he's going to develop. And he's ready for that. He is so much more mature than he was in the previous seasons, and that really shows. And it's so disappointing that he didn't get those opportunities this season. So this needs to be something that changes. And I really don't want to have these same conversations about his limited ice time next off season, because he's someone who really deserves that time, and he's proven that. And I think, he is someone who will be a leader moving forward as well, especially for these players coming up that maybe he played with in Coachella that are younger. And I'm going to be disappointed if he doesn't get more ice time, because he needs that time to develop, and he needs those minutes. And I'm not going to stop talking about that, because this is a talented player who's very smart and makes good decisions on the ice, and is a great teammate, and someone who passes. He's not selfish, and he needs more ice time. He needs more ice time. However, for this report card, I got off on a tangent, but he did, like I said, he did what he could with what he was given. And I think that just proves that he's ready for more.
They say we're going to save the best for last, so we're going to be talking about the best. And that's Shane Wright. 79 games played, 19 goals, 25 assists for 44 points. He played third-line minutes the entire season. And for half of the season, I swear to God, I was going to lose my absolute mind, because he played like 12 freaking minutes the entire game. And he still put up impressive, mind-blowing numbers for a young kid who's not given any opportunity, so to speak. Shane Wright's the real deal. I don't care what anybody says. He is the real freaking deal. Next season, he is going to kick the doors in at the CPA, say, "This is my house, bitch," and own it. And guarantee you it's going to be incredible, because Shane Wright, ready for this, is going to break 30, maybe 35 goals next season. It's happening. I don't care what anybody says. It's happening. And I'm probably going to be biting my tongue, but whatever. No, I love Shane Wright. He is exactly what this team needs. Give him top line minutes. I say put him over Matty Beniers. I say put him over Chandler Stephenson. Put him in the deepest pile of chaos and see what happens. Because at the end of the day, if he doesn't produce, then he goes back down, figures it out maybe as a second or third line center, and he figures it out. You put him at a first line role, and you just let him cook. If he cooks, we got a player on our hands. If he doesn't, maybe give him some time to figure it out. But Shane Wright's the real deal, and we just got to ride that wave, because I really do believe he is going to be an NHL superstar. And I think it might take him a year or two, but he's going to be one of those players that everybody around the league knows. Every fan knows, regardless of what team you cheer for. Shane Wright's going to be that guy. He's a leader in the dressing room. He's a leader on the ice, and I'm going to say it, I think he's your next captain. And that's Shane Wright. So 100% absolutely fired up. He had a crazy, incredible year. The fact that he almost notched 20 goals playing as a third line, 10-minute player, basically. Hats off to the guy. I can't wait for next season. This
guy is awesome. I am so happy with the output that Shane Wright had this season. It so could have been so much better if Dan Bilesma played him more, like we called on and called on and called on over and over and over again. But hopefully whoever is behind the bench in this next season sees what Shane Wright can bring and can get him more than 11 minutes of ice time that he had down to sometimes. 44 points this season, that's pretty great. 19 goals is awesome. Too bad he was just one shy of getting that extra $250,000 in his bank account at the end of the season. But probably the most hype that I have about Shane Wright, other than our amazing merchandise design, The Price is Right, available at bit.ly/BTW store, is we still have him for dirt cheap going forward. So hopefully we can really use this youthful energy that he has, the skills that he's developing, and see him further mature, further develop, become kind of the star that we all hope that he's going to turn into, and just be the future of the Kraken. You know, Matty Beniers was kind of painted as the future of the franchise from coming in as our first ever draft pick, but man, Shane Wright is right there nipping at his heels. I can't wait for that teased and rumored, I guess more confirmed than rumored, third jersey that they're going to come out with next season, because you bet your butt we're tossing a 51 on that bad boy.
Shane Wright. We have talked about this guy ad nauseum this year. And I will say it's crazy that we have this guy at $886,000 for 2 more seasons. I'm so excited to see how he comes out next year. I think all of the writing is on the wall for him to absolutely explode. He was second place in points per 60 minutes this year. It went McCann at 2.59, Shane at 2.38, and Ebbs at 2.28. Great company to have. For reference, Beniers ranked 9th among forwards with 1.68 and was only ahead of Kartye and Eyssimont. Guess who got consistent reductions in ice time and who got additional time? It was backwards. Beniers got more, Shane got less. Shane needs to see a bump in ice time next season under a new coach, and I think he will explode for this team. All right, and then with that, I want to leave this forward convo with an expression, very old expression, that rising tides lift all boats. That's definitely the case here too. In a team sport like hockey, when your friends are performing better, you will too. It feels like this forward group is miles away from success until you realize that a lot of these guys are a few steps away from being average or above average NHL contributors. And when that feeds into itself, we see remarkable results from less than remarkable players, just like the 2022-2023 season.
And that was a long one, so who knew we had so many forwards on this team. So if you're still here, thank you for hanging out. And I just want to give you kind of a rapid news rundown on the week to catch you up on some things that have been happening in the Kraken world and around the hockey world as well. So we'll open some things up here quickly with saying that Seattle Kraken adjacent playoff hockey is now over, as Berkeley Cat and Spokane Chiefs were eliminated from the WHL Championship on Friday night, losing the series 4-1 against the Medicine Hat Tigers. This ends Catton's incredible season that saw him record 38 goals and 71 assists for 109 points over 57 games. In the playoffs, he played in 20 games and had 11 goals and 31 assists. He became the first WHL player since the turn of the century to reach 40 points in a single playoff run, which is pretty dang impressive for what we have coming up the pipeline here. The search for the Seattle Kraken's third head coach is still ongoing. This week saw a coaching contender and former Canucks bench boss Rick Tocchet being hired by the Philadelphia Flyers. Personally, I'm a little relieved that Rick Tocchet was hired by somebody else, because every time my brain reads his name, I read it as Rick Tosche, and seeing how our frequent Jani Nyman pronunciation was welcomed over the weeks until we actively made that correction. I don't know what would have happened if I was constantly pronouncing our coach's name wrong. In some other coaching moves, Adam Foote is headed to Vancouver, Mike Sullivan is going to the Rangers, and Joel Quenneville will be behind the bench in Anaheim. At this point, there are still vacancies in Seattle, Boston, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. The PWHL Walter Cup playoffs are set as the Minnesota Frost will take on the Ottawa Charge. Ottawa defeated Montreal in a series 3-1, and it's worth noting that with the PWHL playoffs, the top seed gets to choose their opponent, so that means that Montreal chose Ottawa in this series. Chance of you chose us during the Ottawa wins was pretty entertaining to see, and this is the second season in a row where the team that did the choosing lost to the opponent that they picked. So can you say curse It might be early to tell, but 2 seasons in a row is maybe indicative of that. Minnesota also defeated the Toronto Scepters in 4 games. The Frost will look to make it back-to-back championships in what is, again, a best-of-5 series. The conference finals are now set in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Edmonton Oilers defeated the Vegas Golden Knights in 5 games and will meet the Dallas Stars, who beat the Winnipeg Jets in 6. And then in the Eastern Conference side of things, the Carolina Hurricanes toppled the Washington Capitals in 5 games and will face off against the reigning champ Florida Panthers after the Toronto Maple Leafs yet again fumbled a series-clinching Game 7. And lastly here, we have a couple updates from the IIHF Men's World Championships. Eeli Tolvanen has been an absolute force to be reckoned with for Team Finland. In a 9-1 victory over Slovenia, Tolvi scored 4 of the goals in that game. Through 5 games in the tournament, the Kraken forward has 6 goals and 2 assists. And in other Kraken score sheets, Brendan Montour has 2 goals and 7 assists. Adam Larsson has a goal and 2 assists. Matty Beniers recorded 3 goals and 1 assist. Mikey Eyssimont has 2 assists on the board. Riker Evans has 1 assist. And OFM Oscar Fisker Molgaard has a goal and 5 assists for Team Denmark. In terms of how the goalies are doing, Joey Decord has a .919 save percentage and a 2.00 goals against average, and Philip Grubauer has a save percentage of .920 and a 2.43 goals against average. And speaking of the Kraken tendies, Gru and Joey faced off on Saturday morning with Team USA beating Team Germany 6-3. And that's it. That's the news. And that's our performance review for the Seattle Krakens for this season. Heather, could you let everyone know what we have lined up for them next week?
I would love to. So next up, we have our continuation of our Kraken performance reviews, and we will be bringing you the defense and goalies. That will be next week, and that will be out on Monday for you. So if you enjoyed this, I hope you will tune in to that one as well. And with that, Derek, can you let everyone know where they can find us all over social media and online?
Absolutely, Heather. First, I want to say make sure to go subscribe to the YouTube. All of our podcasts will also be posted there going forward as another place you can listen to our podcast. Also, we have a ton of merch available at bit.ly/BTW store. That's bit.ly/BTW store. There's a bunch of merch that we created ourselves. We've even had our Monty Mania logo featured on an official Kraken X Starbucks cup. So obviously the team thinks our merch is dope. You should go check it out. And then I just want to say, if you're listening to a small to mid-sized Kraken podcast in the summer, I assume you're a pretty dedicated fan, and we are too. We're all over the place. Go subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on X, Instagram, and most major podcasting platforms. Please drop a follow and a 5-star review on the podcast app of your choice that you're listening to this on, and follow on all of our social media. And I just wanted to say, it's completely free to you, and it would make our day. So consider subscribing to BTW SEA, okay? At BTW SEA on all of the aforementioned spots. Thank you for listening, and we all hope you have an amazing day. See you next week.
We going beneath